Welcome in those of you who watched that football game. I guess we'll call it a game, Taylor Kyles,
It
between
was
the
a game
Patriots and
sometimes.
yeah. For those of you junkies who watched the game, stayed up even for an hour or so after and decided to jump on here and hang out and do post game with us, great, awesome. Taylor's there. Taylor Kyle's in Foxborough, taking in the action, and is going to give some of his insights about what we saw tonight, a 20-9 Patriots loss to the Texans. Taylor, it's funny with preseason, right? It's like you can't wait till it gets here, and then you can't wait until it's gone, almost instantaneously. And like this was one of those nights, especially now, the way teams treat the preseasons, and you're not seeing starters as frequently. And we didn't see them here. And honestly, Patriots have 2 weeks of joint practices coming up. And usually those joint practice weeks, that's where they get their work in against other people and not necessarily against the opponent on game day. So I don't know how much we're going to see starters playing. So what we saw is what we saw. And we saw some interesting stuff. Some things that are definitely concerning, but it's, again, you're seeing second unit guys. So how much of this actually matters? The one thing that I think we're going to point out at this game that is going to matter the most is the continued issues with the offensive line. But we'll get into that because, again, health is a big concern here. And even when healthy, we're not sure how they're going to be. But let's look at some guys who did play and things that we wanted to see from them. And let's start off with a positive. Tyquan Thornton's been getting beat up a little bit because he is invisible right now. He's not getting targeted. He's not making plays. He's not doing stuff in the preseason. He shows up, tonight with a couple of catches, 127-yarder where he, goes up and gets it and makes a nice play on the ball. And it's like kind of a sigh of relief sort of moment for a lot of people who are like, oh man, did they bust a second round pick already? So like, what did you see beyond, those catches or anything like that? And again, you have to take everything with a grain of salt because they weren't attempting much downfield, and the offensive line wasn't giving Zappy, when he was in there, very much time. So there's really only so much the offense could do.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of my time looking at like Demario and Booty. I did think I saw Thornton get open on one play deep, but obviously the offensive line wasn't able to hold up. Zappi didn't look super comfortable, although I thought he did well given the circumstances. But yeah, it was nice to at least have a Tyquan Thornton sighting. Like, obviously, he wasn't a high volume target tonight. He had the quick out after he had obviously that one catch. And that, I mean, I don't want to underrate the catch that he had. It was pretty impressive that full extension, which was kind of funny because the last day of training camp that we were at, it wasn't like a high competitive rep or anything, but there was a pass over the middle that was over him. And it was a similar play where he went up, extended, he was in some traffic. So it's nice to see at least that element of toughness where he's willing to put his body on the line to make those kinds of catches. And it's not an easy play to make either, because that's a play where you have a feeling the safety is going to come down and get you. They were playing cover two. He gets past the underneath cloud defender, which the guy's basically trying to get him to the sideline. He had some space. Zappy put it on him. But I think it was Jalen Petrie was firing downhill. So he had a pretty good idea he was going to get hit and made the play through contact. So, it wasn't a super eventful
It
game. I
was
thought there was
kind of
one
those
run that was
go
blown
up,
up.
duck a little bit, and come down sort of catches. But yeah, he
Yeah.
he,
You
he
got to protect
avoided
your body.
most
He's a little
he
guy.
avoided most of the contact, but he went up and got it. And when you do go up, you know that you could get hit. He didn't really
Mhm.
get drilled there, but yeah, good to
Yeah.
see him make a play. Good to see something there. From something. Demario Douglas, people were like really psyched to see stuff from him tonight. You didn't see him much at all, and in fact,
Yeah.
during the game, you even see like Butte out snapping him, and people are like, "Uh-oh, what's going on? Do we have to rethink, what we've been told or what we've seen through these days of camp?" And Bill Belichick clarified afterwards the reason Douglas played less is because he'd been practicing so much that they'd seen quite a bit of him. And that's kind of how they treat these preseason games. You put in good work during the weeks, in the practices. You don't really need to see you in the games. And so that's where
Yeah.
they're doing a lot of their evaluation. That kind of shows you Douglas is not a bubble guy. That comment alone makes you think like he's kind of rock solid in his position right now on this team. And
Yeah, I don't think I don't.
that's at least my interpretation. For him to be not needing to play to show what he can do kind of tells you what they think of him.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've seen that. Like, he's been taking reps where in training camp, Mac Jones, when there's special teams periods, he'll go over to the red zone on the other field, and the guys that you expect to make the roster with him, like he got Henry, Gesicki, Juju, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker. Demario Douglas has been part of that group for almost all of training camp. I don't really remember a time that he wasn't. So it showed pretty early on that they thought they had something special in him. Everything I've heard suggests that like he has been someone that they have liked for a long time. Like this wasn't just they picked him and they were like, oh my God, he's good. They were interested in him early, I believe maybe his entire time that he was at Liberty. And one, he's known as a hard worker. So I think he was saying he was like 145 pounds or something like that when he first got there. The guy's put on 45, 50 pounds from the time that he started at Liberty to the time he got to the NFL. And I think he put on like 15, 20 pounds just this, in between the draft and now. So, I mean, the work is showing. He mentioned his physicality, which is underrated. Part of his game is like an undersized guy. I think they know what they have in him. He's a young guy, and he's not a Marte Mapu where he's dealing with an injury. Like we even saw Christian Gonzalez play a good amount of snaps. So he was on the field, but I don't think they really had anything they needed to see from him against what was not the deepest,
And that's the thing,
not the best Texans secondary. Yeah.
That's the thing is, I mean, he's slotting in comfortably as the 4 after the 3 veterans. You would think in terms of the way he's perceived in the depth chart. And I know you did a roster projection heading into the game. I think this is a thing that people are keeping an eye on. You're either keeping 6 receivers or one of those guys, or you're going to Foxborough flu, one of those guys, possibly Butte or Thornton, or you're going to try to slide Butte through waivers and see if he comes back to you, but he might not. So, it's going to be interesting because Thornton's not going anywhere based off of his, his pedigree. He's a 2nd-round pick who runs a 4.28. Even if he's trailing behind those guys in terms of what they're seeing in practice, he's not going anywhere. So you're really wondering who's going to kind of play themselves what looks like into the 5 slot there. Behind if Douglas is in fact slightly ahead of Thornton, you'd have to think it's Thornton. But Butte, I thought, you couldn't get much out of him today, but he still made plays during camp. He got open a couple times today. There's just not much they could do tonight with the offensive line being what it was.
Yeah, no, I mean, offensive line play is one of those things we really need to go back and watch. Because, for example, the Bailey Zappi sack that he had early on in the game, it looks like, oh my God, the offensive line blew the protection. The Texans had a specific play designed, so they had 5 people up on the front, which had the Patriots, they responded by going man-to-man. So it's like whoever's in front of you, you block him. And they did something where they had the linebacker over the center. He pretended to drop and then looped around a couple gaps, and there was no one there to block him. So, I don't think the offensive line was good. Like, let me say that. I think there were definitely some issues. But I also think it's important to remember with the line, Belichick even mentioned that they have injuries on the offensive line, and none of their projected starters were playing. Like, even Riley Reed, who's getting starter money, wasn't on the field today. You were seeing Connor McDermott at left tackle. He hasn't really been playing left tackle at all in training camp. So you would like to see your depth put up more of a fight. I thought Antonio Mafi looked good, which is a positive sign because if Mike Nwenu ends up starting the season on PUP, you'd like to see Mafi, who's probably going to have to slide in to his spot, get a good amount of action. I thought he looked pretty solid. So, I mean, but yeah, it wasn't a great showing from that unit. Obviously, Zappi didn't look super comfortable. Trace McSorley, had his struggles as well, but things looked a little bit better when Malik Cunningham was in the game.
What are the 2 things you're most afraid I'm going to talk about on this show, would you say, Taylor?
Let's see. I don't know. I'm kind of juiced up, man. This is my first game. I'm excited. I got all positivity in my brain. So come on, give me some downer stuff. Let's see.
It's not the downer stuff. It's the quarterback. It's the quarterback controversy, which I'm just kidding.
Depends what quarterback spot you're talking about, though. QB3, I think that is a very real competition.
And that, yeah, sure. And then I'm going to for now, and then it's gonna be the Tank Dell, Patriots, that's the guy we talked about during the draft as one of the guys who I think was on your hot list when they kept not drafting receivers, and he looked pretty good over there in Houston as well, and people are singing his praises. So it's nice to see all these other teams have these terrific receivers. I really am happy for them. That's great, really great for them. We are going to quickly tell you about our terrific sponsor, FanDuel, which obviously they're super excited that football season is about to kick off. Taylor's excited. He's down there covering the games. He's going to be covering practices next couple of weeks on the road, which should be pretty cool as well. But if you want to get involved and get in on the action here with FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network, get going now. Football season about to kick off. FanDuel giving you the chance to win all season long. Right now, when you bet on a Super Bowl winner, you can get bonus bets every time they win in the regular season. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get a bonus bet for each of their victories. You can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Start earning those bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/Boston. So check it out. We could jump ahead to Malik Cunningham, but we're not going to do that yet. I think what you do have to give props to, and again, I think a lot of people are going to look at this team and say, they're going to make their bones on the defensive side. Again, you're playing second teamers, but defensively, you did see members of the starting secondary out there for sure. Christian Gonzalez is out there. You saw Jack Jones out there, and you saw Jalen Mills out there at safety. So two things I think worth talking about on the defensive side is the whole who's going to replace McCourty sort of situation. And I think Mills kind of, steps in and answers that a little bit in what looks like a pretty natural position for him. And I think I'm not going to say it's like set it and forget it and like they're all set there, but like I don't think that that's a concern with him back there. I think that they're going to be solid there.
Yeah, so what I saw was that in a lot of long yardage situations or, third downs with Devin McCourty, everybody thinks of him as a center fielder, and obviously that's what he did most of the time. But there were, like, when you think about when they had Deron Harmon, who was, when he was on the field, he was the center fielder. Devin McCourty would usually go down and either play man coverage on tight ends, or he would kind of be that robber where he would cut the middle of the field and wait for anything to come his way and pick it off. Now, that's where we saw Jalen Mills a lot. Now, on early downs, he was more of a big nickel slot, which basically means instead of like a Miles Bryant type in the slot, who's a cornerback, you have a safety who brings more physicality. So when the Texans were playing with more of their run looks and they were going under center, Jalen Mills was spending a lot of time down low in that position. You saw him with the run blitz where he blew up the play. And then on the interception that he had, I actually asked him afterwards because I was like, were you in a robber coverage? Because that's basically what it is. It's called a robber because you're robbing the middle of the field of anything that comes there. He said, no, he was actually in man coverage on the tight end in the backfield. But because the tight end stayed in the block and he was already in the backfield,
he was just
Jalen Mills was like, exactly. He's like, it's 3rd and 21. I'm not going to cover a tight end. He's not really a problem.
He's just reading eyes, and he was just waiting for it there. Yep.
And he said, he's like, yeah, I was just playing with the quarterback. CJ Stroud's a rookie. He's like, yeah, I was playing with the quarterback, made it look like robber, cover 2. Like, that's what you want to hear. Jalen Mills, smart. Bill Belichick said, like, he reminded us, well, Jalen Mills played safety the entire spring his first season with the Patriots and played all over the defensive backfield when he was with Philly. So you saw that. I mean, he really smart player. Obviously, it's one thing to be smart. It's another thing to make the play, and he did that. It was a really cool play. I'm excited to see more of him in that role.
Yeah. And then you got, it started, as far as the pressure, it started on the first series, with, sacks, and pressures, constant pressure. And I know Stroud's also going to be, rookie quarterbacks oftentimes, they're going to hold it a bit too long sometimes. And, some of the pressure maybe came from that where the ball wasn't coming out quick, but some of it was just, they were on him. And some of that was interior pressure and a name that you just kept hearing early on. Well, you heard Anthony Jennings, who's freaking people out with the number 33, because it's like, who am I watching here? But the one everyone's going to kind of jump at is Keon White, because again, you want to see you want to believe that you invested your draft capital into things that are worth it. And he just, this is a guy, we're there at training camp. He just looks like a man. He's just a bad looking dude, a real specimen, just like looks angry, physical. And he was just all over the place tonight.
Yeah, and I do want to really quickly shout out Daniel Ekwale because a lot of that pressure was him as well.
And he got some in the interior. He was friggin' bringing it early for sure.
Yeah, got roughing the passer, whatever the hell that was.
I'm gonna tell you, the broadcast didn't see it. It was hands to the face, and it was pretty clear. It was
All right.
very clear. It's the automatic
It looked
flag.
like a swipe, but maybe I'm wrong.
He
Yeah, I could be wrong.
jumped and he was trying to not hit him, but in the process of not hitting him, slash trying to keep the quarterback up, he just raked him across the face. That gets it every
Okay.
time. And that was
Yeah.
why it wasn't, but he didn't rough him. He was actually trying not to hurt him. In
Right.
an attempt to do
It
that,
feels like half the roughing the passer calls are when the guy's explicitly trying
he
not
was
to rough the
trying not to
passer.
hurt him, but he caught him in the face mask pretty clear, and they call that every time. But yeah, I mean, other than
Yeah.
that, yeah, he was great. But again, Keon
Yeah, Keon White.
you know,
Yeah, so Keon White, I mean, the best part about Keon White's performance was he was lining up everywhere. Like, he was lining up a defensive end. He was a stand-up outside linebacker. He was an edge rusher. Like, he was all over the place. The forced fumble, we asked him about that. He was like, hey, see ball, get ball. Like, I saw that it was loose. My job is to attack the football, try to make a play on it. And beyond that, I mean, he was splitting double teams. He was getting in the backfield. Just what you want to see from a freak athlete who's playing against a bunch of backups. Like, I think the guy made 7 or 8 key plays in just a half of
in
football. Like, that's what
in
you're
the first
expecting
like
from
2
him.
or 3 series, like it was
Yeah.
really impactful. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I
and
mean,
and and it should be noted against starters to start, which is
yeah.
something which is something worth talking about. The Texans played more. I mean, what is a Texas first teamer? But still, played more than the Patriots did.
Yeah.
To start the game for the first couple series, so they looked pretty good. The
Yeah. So, I mean,
defense looked real.
yeah. Oh, my God. Especially the defensive front. Like, we already know that unit's loaded. It's actually kind of funny
And
because
that's
Carl
their
Davis
backups.
and
There's no Judon, there's no Wise, there's no Barmore, there's no guy playing tonight. I mean, this is legit second team across the board, and there was
yeah.
plenty to like. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of
But
there's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of depth there.
yeah, I mean, I can't wait to get into the film so I can actually look at all the plays that. Oh my God, I tried to cheat and check out a couple clips, but yeah, I mean, Keon White was all over the defensive line, making plays for multiple alignments. Again, that's what you want to see from a guy who's like second round pick because he was super talented, but he was also pretty raw. And teams were saying, all right, we're going to have to develop this guy, and he's coming on pretty quick. And in their system, DeMarcus Covington's a fantastic defensive line coach. We're already seeing it pay dividends.
Yep. So things to like on the defense. We'll look at the rookies a little bit. Christian Gonzalez, first snap of the game is a little kind of there. He's laying back a little bit in zone. Nico Collins catches a little quick out. No, was it Collins? Might have been Collins. It was Collins catches it, and Gonzalez comes in to try to make the play, and Collins just blows him back about 6 yards off the ball. So it was a welcome to the NFL moment in terms of the contact there, and we know he's not the most
Can't
physical guy.
stand up. You can't stand up when you're trying to tackle. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, all
nope,
right, was this a
he met
physicality
him.
thing or it was a bad technique?
Bad
Guys like
technique.
standing up and got blown up.
He
Yeah,
got
so
blown up, sir. So he got blown up, and then had another play where it was kind of bad play, good play. He didn't really take a good angle on a shallow kind of crosser slant route there. Gave up a completion to Sims, was it? And then, but did make a good recovery and kind of punched that ball out, even though it was a completion and another possession. Didn't see a ton else. And again, this is going to be one of those look at the film things and see. I'm not sure how much they had him in zone versus man. If he was, if he had erased any, receivers or any routes and, took some plays away with his coverage. It's kind of hard to see it, at first glance there. But like, what did you see from Gonzalez tonight? Because again, a lot of eyes there. Whether he's ready for the role or not, he's CB1, and he's going to be the guy who's kind of put out there and sometimes going to be on an island against some of the team's best receivers.
yeah, so when he on the bootleg, I need to watch that one again. I think that's just a tough play to defend, especially when you think there's a possibility of run because you're like a tick behind.
Yep.
But again, I did like the awareness to see the ball and try to get it out. That was a really smart play from a rookie. On the plays that I was watching him, he looked, I mean, it's what you expect. Fluid, really good coverage. I wish we could have seen him more against Tank Dell. Again, that's one I'm going to have to watch out for. But, I mean, if you're not hearing from a cornerback, it's usually a pretty good thing. Really, it was the two impact plays that stood out to me. Was he stood up when a guy was heading out of bounds, got blown up because not really no one in the league is going to be in that position and look good. And then again, the forced fumble. So that's one of those things like offensive line play. You got to look at the film to see every single snap because, it's hard to follow him when, it could be a run play. You're kind of looking in the middle of the field. But I mean, he looked as advertised just like Keon White did from what I saw.
Yeah. Switching back, just in terms of, I wanted to go back to the offense before we get to Malik, who ended up kind of stealing the show late in the game here. The other thing I think worth pointing out offensively, that there's, and again, it's not going to be like, oh, it's all bad, but like, there's question marks at receiver, and you want to see how they play under Bill O'Brien with Mac and a full healthy O-line before you can make an actual judgment. What's that going to look like? You want to see a fully healthy O-line, and again, you don't have it. You've got Onwenu on the pup. You've got Cole Strange. He's been out for a bit. You have Trent Brown nursing whatever Trent Brown is nursing. David Andrews has kind of been on and off in terms of his participation. Obviously, none of those guys played tonight. You still have question marks at the other tackle position. So that's going to continue to be a problem. But like a low-key thing that has been talked about, which you think is going to be remedied, is the depth at running back. And obviously Ramondre Stevenson not playing on this night on Thursday, leaves you with what you have. Harris, you have Pierre Strong, your downtime Montgomery, who also left camp a couple weeks ago and really hasn't been seen since. So you're lacking there. And O-line didn't help anybody's cause, but none of those guys really stood out. Even in the few opportunities they had to make plays, I'm thinking specifically of one with Pierre Strong. I think it was a 3rd and 2nd. There was a little swing out to him in a flat. He's got a chance to make a guy miss and make a play. He doesn't make that play. I didn't see much out of those guys, and you are going to start thinking like they might have to bring in one of those veterans and have another person that they can go to here, because I don't know that this room has enough talent in it right now.
Yeah, the Pierre Strong play was kind of weird because it was a design pick. So the idea was that Booty gets in the way and the guy who's covering Pierre Strong has to get over him or runs into him, and that gives Pierre Strong space.
He still has a chance to make a guy miss in space. Yeah.
But Zappe had to put the ball over an edge rusher, so it was like a tick too long. Yeah, you'd like to see Pierre Strong make the guy miss, but like I'm not going to, that's one play in a vacuum. I will say, from a guy like Pierre Strong, he's explosive. He's supposed to be making people miss. I agree. You'd like to see more.
To do stuff. You want to see one burst or two in there just to be like, yep, that's what they got him for. You just didn't see anything. Yeah. And again, there's a lot of reasons for it, but yeah.
Right. I did think that, very limited sample size for Kevin Harris, but I did, literally, I think his first carry, he made a guy miss and then trucked through somebody else for a little extra yards after contact. But obviously, J.J. Taylor got the lion's share of reps, and I thought it was kind of weird. Maybe they're trying to say, hey, he's the veteran. Maybe we see what we have in him because this is an experienced guy. I don't really know what that was about. We kind of know what J.J. Taylor is at this point. Nothing against him, but, he's a smaller guy. And
he's a bubble guy. I mean, he's
a practice squad guy. He's been a practice squad guy. He's going to stay a practice squad guy. Quiet day for the running backs. It's really hard when the offensive line isn't really doing a great job. But again, great running backs make things happen. So I'll go to the film again. I'm going to say that a million times. I sound like Bill Belichick. But just to be sure, were there really opportunities like the swing pass? I'm like, all right, that's one play. But quiet day for the running backs with a backup porous offensive line.
Do you have to go get a guy?
I think it would help for sure. I really think the only thing holding it up is Dalvin Cook's decision. Like, I think once Dalvin Cook signs, then you have an idea of what that market is, and then dominoes are going to fall. They sign Zeke Elliott. They sign Leonard Fournette. I think that's almost a guarantee. Because even if Kevin Harris is good, even if Pierre Strong is good, you still would like to have 4 good running backs you could rely on. Like last year, they had all those guys, but they had Damian Harris as Ramondre's backup. Now you got Ty Montgomery, who's not really a running back. He's a pass protector and he's a pass catcher. You don't really want him running very much. Like last season, limited sample size, but I think he had like 3 outside zone carries and got blown up almost every time. Yeah. I think it's very reasonable that they should go out and get a running back, but that market is being very weird right now. So it's probably going to not be until right before the season that we see movement there.
All right. Switching gears back to the Texans side of the ball. The one interesting thing, we saw a little bit of Stroud. Played a couple series, but really not that much. But rookie Tank Dell, somebody that was on our radar as a potential, day 2 target for the Patriots, among the possibilities. And again, thinking that for sure with one of those day 2 picks after they went corner in the first round, they're going to take a receiver. They did not. despite us throwing out many, many names, and this was one of them. And again, you're going to look at this draft and you're going to go back and you're going to say, coulda, woulda, shoulda, what could you have done? And again, if all of these guys hit, you'll have fewer concerns. And if Marte Mapu ends up being, as good as everyone thinks he's going to be, and he's been talked up, but still hasn't really been able to participate with a pec injury. And you saw good things out of Keon White, and obviously Gonzalez was in need. But Tank Dell, 69, Jalen Hyatt, who you didn't love, 73. Marte Mapu comes in at 76. So that was kind of that zone where you thought if the Patriots wanted a receiver, they could have made a move up to get it. Are you having receiver envy at all, Taylor?
So let me wait. Do we remember what spot Tank Dell was taken? Let me just remind
myself. He was 69, and Mapu was 76. So it wasn't a miss, right, but it was a guy who they could have targeted if they wanted, for sure. And did not. Yeah.
I wouldn't swap him out for Mapu for sure, but I did, I really liked Tank Dell. I thought he was one of the best guys after the catch. I also thought he played bigger than he actually was, but they got day 3 Tank Dell. It was Zay Flowers, then it was Josh Downs, then it was Tank Dell, then it was Demario Douglas, where it's like these are all similar kinds of guys who play bigger than they are and are really explosive. But yeah, I mean, you saw why Tank Dell embarrassing Isaiah Bolden and looking good against all these guys. I don't think that's very surprising because he's a good player.
Even on the pick, he put Jones in a bit of a.
I was gonna say the person you don't want to see struggle against Tank Dell is Jack Jones, but I'm gonna say something that people maybe not like. Jack Jones was doing that last season too. There were a lot of plays where if it was enough yardage, and he's off at the top of the route, Jack Jones has a tendency to slip. When we were talking about how the cornerback rotation was going to work out, I've been saying that I would really like it if it was John Jones outside and Marcus Bryant in the slot, because as talented as Jack Jones is, there's a lot of plays where he gets caught slipping because he's either biting or his balance isn't great. He's a playmaker, but it's not a playmaker and he's solid except for when he's making plays, and sometimes he gets burned. It's like a 60-40 ratio sometimes, 70-30, where it's just a little too much for my taste. But yeah, the one against Isaiah Bolden, he beat Bolden off the line. He tried to get a jam on Dell. Great timing by him to swipe away, and then ridiculous awareness to not only catch the ball, but you saw that he was keeping his foot right on the line. That was the part that blew my mind, that he had that much awareness of where he was. But yeah, I mean, I'm envious that they got Tank Dell. I'm envious that the Ravens got Zay Flowers, but at the same time, I wouldn't swap who they got. But yeah, it was a great show from him, but you'd like to see more from Jack Jones in his second year. A little more discipline, better technique, because it looked like he was trying to plant on the wrong foot, which is why he fell. So that was disappointing for sure. But yeah, man, Tank's a dog. I love Tank.
Yep. And then we're going to close it out. We're going to close up with the Malik Cunningham show. And again, we joke about, I joke a little about quarterback controversies. There's not a quarterback controversy, but people will start to say, I'm not saying anything. I'm not there's not, but someone's going to say it, and it's going to, and it's going to be, and then you're going to hear it on radio. Someone's going to put it out there, and it's just going to go. But it's not that anybody thinks that Malik Cunningham is threatening for this Patriots starting quarterback job. I just personally, Taylor, I have always really wanted the post Tom Brady quarterback that the Patriots were going to grow with to be an athlete. I really wanted that. I felt like it was time to evolve. So I have athlete envy. I'm not saying I want Malik Cunningham to start over Mac Jones.
That's fair.
But I do see it, and I'm like, oh man, just the ability to break things down. And I just think that obviously the position has evolved to the point where guys being able to escape and to create, I'm not talking about guys rushing for 1,000 yards, but just guys who can do things on their own when things break down. And when you see a team, this is my concern. This isn't about Malik Cunningham versus Mac Jones. This is about a team that might have problems with the O-line and keeping Mac upright and keeping him in the pocket. And Mac Jones is supposed to be a guy who can operate well if you protect him. And right now I'm a little concerned with their ability to protect him, which is why having an athletic quarterback and someone who can extend plays and do things out there is useful. And you just see Cunningham out there, and he makes that great play at the goal line. And again, you're talking about scrubs versus scrubs here. So again, what are you going to say? But what else did you see? Because it wasn't just that run. I thought he actually looked pretty comfortable back there. And it's a guy who's split time in camp between receiver and quarterback. So he's not getting a ton of reps. He's the fourth quarterback in camp in terms of pass reps. So it was kind of cool to see him out there actually like play quarterback and look like a quarterback.
It was. So that's why I say if there's a QB competition, and I put this in my roster breakdown or my roster projection, McSorley off, Cunningham is your practice squad guy. I mean, I think Bill O'Brien is smart enough that, like, if the offensive line, once they're fully assembled, if there's so many injuries that it really is a massive liability, I don't think they're going to be in a rush to bench Mac Jones because I do think he's going to do really well in O'Brien's system. But I'm saying I think I'm not saying there's a QB controversy either, but if they have a guy where it's like, okay, we literally can't protect our pocket quarterback, we have to figure something out. I think that, because now my question with Cunningham was he's a dynamic athlete. We already know that. But I was curious about what he would look like as a passer, especially because, like you said, he's been QB4. He hasn't gotten a lot of reps. And I remember he did have some good throws in training camp when they gave him the reps. There were also some struggles. He didn't look super comfortable back there, but against that offensive line, that's not the craziest thing in the world.
It's
but
not.
We saw
the quarterback controversy is more for if it's going to come up, it's more going to be like, is he going to be the 2 over Zappy? Not
right,
as he, right. And I think
and
it's
I'm just early.
saying
that I was excited about his accuracy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I was excited about the accuracy because, again, they're not going to try to bench Mac Jones. I'm saying like DEFCON 5, like Mac is going to die because Trent Brown's gone, Cole Strange is gone. Like I'm saying if literally they're playing like that line that they had on the field right now because we saw it was a struggle. But I was excited to see Cunningham show the accuracy. Like he had one throw where there was a play action and he gets back and there's 1 or 2 edge rushers that are about to get him. He kind of freezes them and then gets the throw underneath, just gets the ball out of his hands. That was really smart. And then the throw to Trey Nixon, that was a beautiful pass. It should have been a touchdown. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Someone asking if we're live. Yes, we are live. We do this all the time.
Yes.
This is how we roll. But go ahead. Yeah, no, I know which throw you're talking about here. Yeah,
he put it right on Trey Nixon, and then Trey Nixon. The reason he's always on the practice squad and not on the team is because he's super athletic and he can get open, but he doesn't catch the ball with nearly enough consistency. And you saw there's no one around him, and then the ball bounces off his hands. But, I mean, not only that, but then you see when he ran in for the touchdown, you could see that he was looking and it didn't look like anybody was open. I believe he corroborated that after the game when he was speaking to us. I'm just trying to remember the quote exactly. But he saw there was nothing there and then took it upon himself, and he said that his coaches were saying, hey, you can't let the first guy tackle you. We saw he juked 35 out of his shoes, then dragged one tackler, and got into the end zone. But that kind of playmaking ability, not just the running, because running is not how you play quarterback. It's a bonus. You saw him really play the position well and look comfortable back there in really adverse conditions. And that was what got me really excited. Because I was saying, okay, can he sit back there, go through his reads, make the plays, not hold on to the ball, throw it underneath if he has to? We saw that. That was super exciting. And I think that you really need to start saying, all right, maybe we start giving him reps over Trace McSorley. And Trace McSorley seems like one of the nicest people on the planet. Really good dude, but like he hasn't looked good as a quarterback. So I think you have to say, all right, we got to see what Cunningham can do and see, all right, is he going to push Bailey Zappi? And to Zappi's credit, I thought he had a solid game as well. Bill Belichick said he made good decisions. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. You saw him throw it away on a couple third downs where C.J. Stroud was in 3rd and 21 and tried to throw the ball and got picked off. Whereas Zappi, when he didn't have a good play, he just threw it away and lived to fight another series, which is what you want to see. And I thought the throw to Tyquan was a bit high. The placement wasn't great, but I liked that he was aggressive and let his guy make a play. But the one that really surprised me was the offense was playing with tempo. And you were seeing that he was like getting them on the ball, trying to get downfield, get them set quickly. And there was a quick pass where he takes the ball, he looks left, the stick route was covered. He looks right on a slant flat concept, sees that the slant's covered, checks it down to Trey Nixon, who runs for a first down. That kind of thing where it's like that processing where it's boom, boom, throw. That's fantastic. So I don't want to take anything away from Zappi because I thought given what was going on, he did have a good performance from what I could see in the broadcast and whatnot. But yeah, man, Cunningham really, really impressed me today.
He did, and what a fickle bunch of fans Patriots fans can be, or NFL fans. Last year they're filling stadiums with chants of Bailey Zappi, trying to get him to come in there over the incumbent, and just like that, couple of series from Malik Cunningham, and it's bye bye Bailey. They've got a new everyone's got a new binky in town, so yeah, good for him. It's fun, creates a little buzz, something fun to talk about. And honestly, this game needed a jolt because I mean, you've yawned about 7 times during this show. If not for Malik Cunningham, I would have been asleep. I wouldn't have
John,
even
I
made it.
was I was cutting up clips like during the game because I'm like, there's nothing. I'm not going to watch Trace McSorley right now. I could get ahead, have some fun stuff on the Twitter feed, and get ahead on my
Yeah,
evaluation. And then Cunningham comes in. I'm like, shoot, okay, I'm watching. And then he went crazy. But yeah, that was much needed because I was not checked out, but I was like, all right, there's more important things to do than watch.
yep.
I don't want to say incompetent to be mean, but you got your third string quarterback with a bad offensive line. You're not really expecting much. And then
No,
Cunningham,
and then
gave us a laugh.
Cunningham changes the narrative on us. So that gave us something to smile about. And again, 20-9, it is what it is. This was a bit of a snoozer of a game here. So there's really not much you can see. And honestly, the biggest, I'm not going to say concern, but the biggest thing is, a lot of these, you want to get to these games, Taylor, to see like how it all looks. And when you don't get a chance to see the starters playing against other teams' starters, even if they're going to run really base vanilla stuff, it just doesn't allay any of your concerns, which I think will continue on here. I think these next couple of weeks of competitive practices against other teams will help a little bit because you'll see them go up against people, throughout the week. So that'll be a ton of fun. But again, those questions with the line, the questions with the receiver, I think are going to remain, and until we see a little bit more out of them. And really no questions answered tonight. O-line depth is a problem, but it definitely looks like there's a lot of talent there on the defensive side of the ball. So things we knew, we still know. Things we don't know, we still don't know. And I'm not sure when we will know it, but a lot more preseason, a lot more football to come. As we said, is it next week, Nashville?
Next week is Green Bay.
Next week is Green Bay and then Nashville. Taylor's off to Green Bay starting next week for joint practices. We will still be covering the Patriots in Foxborough, obviously, when they're practicing here. But Taylor will be down there for the joint practices, visiting Green Bay, which is pretty cool. So that should be a lot of fun. Keep it with CLNS Media. Make sure you follow Taylor Kyles. He'll have a written write-up about some of the things that he liked and he saw tonight. So follow him on Twitter. Check us out, clnsmedia.com. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already for nonstop Patriots coverage throughout training camp. Not just the stuff that Taylor produces down in Foxborough or covering the team, home and away, but a ton of great podcasts with Greg Bedard of Boston Sports Journal, Andrew Callahan, Boston Herald, Alex Barth, 98.5 The Sports Hub, and Taylor and Kyrie Thompson coming at you with Patriots Daily. Lots and lots and lots and lots of football coverage, always a lot of fun. So honestly, one of the best destinations you can get for, continuous round-the-clock football coverage from a lot of different sources. Subscribe to that YouTube channel. Turn on your notifications when we go live, which we do often. You will get a little ding. Just in case you weren't ready for it. So thanks again, Taylor. I know you still got a lot of work to do, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you guys for hanging out an hour plus after this preseason game and chilling with us. It was a lot of fun. We do appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time. There'll be a lot more Patriots coverage tonight and tomorrow on all of our platforms here at CLNS Media, so please check it out. Until then, good night.
Thanks, everyone.